camera, and that way you will only see Jordan.
Excellent. Well, Phyllis, thank you again for all your support in coordinating this session today. We are super excited to be with you all, and we hope to make this a little bit interactive. Today we'll be talking, of course, about experiential learning. That's a big feature of the IACBE community, but we're going to be specifically talking about live cases. It's one of our obsessions. It's one of our exciting products that we love to work on with lots of the IACBE schools within the community. So we'll get started. First, we want to wish you all a warm welcome. We have been partners with the IACBE network now for about 5 years, running live case competitions as a way to expose the schools in our community to experiential education that involve industry partners. We've had a lot of fun. We ran 3 competitions this year, 2 last year, and 1 every year prior. So serious growth. And one of the most exciting things is we're doing a lot more to bring live cases to the communities within IACBE that want to run them in their own custom way, which is going to be the focus of today's session. I wanted to quickly introduce my colleague, Abby. She's listening in during the session, has been on a lot of these webinars with us, and will be able to answer some of your questions throughout the session if you want to use the chat. Abby, do you want to say hello?
Hello, everyone. It's great to be here. Happy to be part of the session, and feel free to pop anything in the chat, and I'll be able to help out there.
Thanks, Abby. All right, so let's make sure those fingers and minds are working. We really want you guys to say hello to one another. We want this to be an interactive environment. So let us know who you are, where what organization you're a part of, where you're calling from, or what you're hoping to learn today. When you hear kind of the prompt, live cases are on the rise. We certainly are seeing tons of growth and use of this format, which we'll get into in some more depth. So I wanted to first start off by highlighting the presentation that we did last year for IACBE, and encourage you guys to take a listen to it if you have some time and you're interested. I'll be breezing through some of the content that we presented last year called Building Curriculum That Boosts the Resume. One of the really unique things that we did last year was we actually presented the concept of the role of institutions in the experiential bargain, is what we like to call it. And what makes that particularly interesting is we've evolved that framework a little bit to include a lot more of the company's perspective, what we like to call experiential hiring. So I'm excited to kind of present that to you guys shortly, so that you can at least understand where we're coming from prior years, and then we can really focus on the live case methodology specifically. So first and foremost, hopefully this isn't the first time you're seeing this. This is our experiential learning framework. This is how we design all of our engagements, and this is also how we measure the outcomes of these engagements, ensuring that students are developing and using these very crucial soft and technical skills. So ultimately, experiential learning, what makes it so unique and different from content-based learning, is that students are actually actively using soft and technical skills like communication, collaboration, critical thinking, and creativity in order to develop real outcomes for real stakeholders who provide real feedback. And that's really the thing that makes it especially different than static content-based experiences. Ultimately, students are supposed to walk away with reference-worthy experience, and we'll dive into this a little bit more. But at the very minimum, let's start to build classes that boost the resume, right? Let's figure out how to help students understand how to package themselves better when they're interviewing, when they're applying for jobs, in order to make sure that they feel confident and also are career ready. And that's what the power of experiential learning is all about. So the experiential bargain talks about the trade-off between those who are working on experiential learning projects and those who are offering those projects. Sometimes we call them companies, industry partners, clients. In some cases, I've seen schools call it, at the very minimum, they're outside third parties that are offering projects and challenges for students to work on. So students get to apply theory and work on real projects with real stakes, and the companies get fresh ideas and cost-effective solutions. Ultimately, the students are developing skills, networking, and ensuring that there's role alignment and career alignment for themselves, while the companies get to evaluate them as talent and ensure that there's the appropriate culture fit for their organization. And then, of course, the big outcome here is that students walk away with reference-worthy experience, and companies get to select and retain top talent. This also was included in last year's presentation, so we go into this in depth, which really is what is the role of the academic institution in the experiential bargain, and that comes down to organization, facilitation, and accreditation. So organizing these engagements, something that CapSource can help with, making sure that you're securing the appropriate partner, aligning the goals of that partner with the teaching goals of the course, really creating a formal scope that can serve as the foundation for the research and for the project that the students are working on. And then, of course, getting the students excited, enrolled, and ready. The facilitation part is also something that CapSource's software now assists with, and we'll be showcasing some of that shortly. Of course, we need the academic mentor, we call them experiential educators, to be a key part of that process. So that's really part of the facilitation. And then we really want to make sure that we're achieving the defined learning objectives and meeting those measurable learning goals. Lastly, accreditation comes down to recognition of the student work, making sure that the students are walking away with specific skills and able to reference that as learning experience. This is the newest part of the model. Now that we've dove in, and I'll explain why this is particularly relevant for universities in a moment, but ultimately, experiential hiring is the other side of the equation. It's important that universities understand what is in it for the companies. Why would they want to do this? So that they can build better programs. Our entire technology infrastructure is built off of this foundation, understanding both sides of the equation, optimizing the experience for all three stakeholders, including the students. So what we like to say is that experiential hiring allows employers to recruit and engage candidates interested in showcasing their skills by solving case-based and project-based challenges. By designing assessments, candidates can learn about the team, product, and industry while showcasing soft skills and technical skills as well as culture fit. And then employers benefit by integrating project outcomes generated by candidates that they can hire. So that's the framework here. One thing that we've added to our ecosystem is case-based assessments. So we're starting to really dive into a content-based approach as well as the project-based approach, especially for programs that might not be able to afford a much more robust interactive project with a company. At least we can provide a content-based interactive experience for the students and faculty. And then, of course, the project-based experience is the live case or the capstone, those two models that we use very regularly. The neat part is this is the most overlap here, the assessment, because students, the same way that they're using these skills in the experiential learning framework, so these soft and technical skills, the companies are able to vet those skills and ultimately ensure that they're a good fit. So at the end of this, the students really need to walk away with reference-worthy experience. That's what's added to their resume. That's what gives them the confidence that they have something to talk about as a result of work that was done in class, as opposed to really focusing on packaging out of school key experiences to actually get that first job or that promotion. The students are actually able to do that with classwork, which is a really novel thing that I think is increasingly expected of institutions and programs now that students are really using this as a workforce training and development experience. So the first concept I wanted to introduce is really how are live cases different than the traditional case method? I mean, it's astronomical. That's part of the reason why we have some shooting stars behind you. But the truth of the matter is it is very different. There are no teaching manuals. There's no formal written case end-to-end that has all the information that students need. It's a living interactive case that involves a real company that has real stakes. And that real life, real world experience is what drives ultimately the value that's created by the students in engaging in these programs. So we did recently a presentation with one of our partners about the differences between all the different case study methods that are out there. So I dropped this slide in to kind of fully help you comprehend what a live case is. Of course, it's a product that we offer. It's a synchronous live collaboration with industry. Students work on one or multiple carefully designed scopes. The reason why it's one or multiple is there's really two styles of live cases. One is a competition and the other is a collaboration. So you could design a competition where all the students work on the same challenge, or a collaboration where they're working on different parts of the same challenge or different challenges altogether that are complementary and create a really nice pseudo company environment within the classroom. You have a product team, a marketing team, and then an analytics team, for example. So they could really see how the departments interact with each other to get information and evolve their thinking and the outcomes. The key is always for all experiential learning to align teaching goals with company goals. We've seen these successfully accommodate up to 200 students, and we like to say it's kind of like a capstone, but much bigger, which really requires faculty as the key liaison to make these successful. They could be used as short group projects or full semester classes. We've seen these successful as 1 to 2 week engagements, 4 to 8 week engagements, and then full semester 12 to 13 week engagements. So here are the pros to using a model like this. So they are higher stakes than traditional cases, which allows students to research and propose real solutions to real challenges at real organizations. That's what creates the reference-worthy experience. There are no right answers, so the students must make assumptions. That's a very important professional practice. How do you make good assumptions? How do you test those assumptions and iterate? We also want to help students learn to solve with incomplete information. That is a really crucial professional skill. There is no answer key for the real world. Of course, they walk away with meaningful real-world experience that could be added to the resume. Of course, the same thing could be looked at as a con, especially from an educator perspective, because this might actually be a different style of teaching. It really is a different style of teaching. So there's no manual, there's no right answer, must make assumptions. Grading can be a little bit challenging. We have several frameworks that we like to use. We help educators collect data that can be used for grading, but ultimately you're more of a partner, a manager, and doing performance reviews than you really are an educator divvying out grades based on a rubric. So it's a little bit different than a traditional course structure, and ultimately creating something meaningful takes time, and maintaining partner relationships takes work. And of course, CapSource tries to make this easy, but can't do the entire process for our partners. So really it's all about going in with your eyes wide open. This is a real consulting engagement. This is a real opportunity for students to apply their learning, which, as beneficial as it is, it also is different, and it could be challenging if you don't go in with the right expectations. So this talks a little bit about the different collaboration formats, the different styles of live cases that, for that matter. So on the left-hand side, that's a collaboration, one company offering one or multiple projects for one or multiple teams to work on. As opposed to the competition, very clearly multiple teams work on one project from one company. And so a live case competition, for example, really enables the students to focus in on developing the best compared to their colleagues, which enables a much easier way to grade. You can get feedback, compare apples to apples, as opposed to if you have one team working on marketing and another on analytics. It's very hard to prove which team did better. In fact, both teams could do very well and very differently for that matter, but it's okay because that's the whole point of the experiential learning engagement. So I wanted to kind of quickly highlight some of the really exciting programs that we've run through over the course of this year, developing custom live cases for universities and educators within the IACBE network. I know Paul's Wed was interested in popping in to say hello. Paul, are you here to maybe talk a little bit about the branch engagement? If not, it's okay. So hopefully he'll come in later. But Paul's Wed from Massachusetts Maritime has done several live case experiences with us. It's always a couple of different aspects around the same project. In this particular example, the students were working on a company called Branch, where they got a chance to help the company pivot from a B2B model to a B2C model. And it was especially timely because of COVID. They needed to figure out how to serve consumers directly through office furniture. That's what they are predominantly known for. And so the company really needed help figuring out how do you market to consumers directly, and then what's the logistical implications of moving from B2B to B2C at such an early stage business. Then the second one is the Florida Tech True Religion live case competition. So they ultimately got 5 faculty, different courses, 180 students engaged with True Religion through one challenge, which was come up with a growth and marketing strategy for the business. And so I actually took a moment to kind of dive deeper into this example with you all. True Religion is an exciting brand from the 90s, early 2000s that makes denim. They ultimately are looking to reinvent themselves and get back on the horse after losing some brand value over the course of the last few years. They are looking towards students, which is exactly where we think really big companies like True Religion that need reinvigoration should be looking. And they've been working a lot more with us ever since. So first, the students had to do a deep dive on True Religion. Second, a target customer analysis. The third, research on market segments. And then fourth, propose a creative growth strategy. And then one of the most extraordinary things is that these particular engagements attract top-level management to meetings so that they can hear what the students are thinking. And so that's a picture on the left-hand side of the CEO of True Religion Jeans listening to the Florida Tech winning team present their ideas. And then on the right-hand side, I thought this was a particularly novel concept. Of course, one of the interesting things, even the True Religion folks don't wear jeans to work, especially if they're working from home. They like comfortable athleisure. So that, if anything, is a signal that they should be going in a direction of more comfortable and not denim exclusive products. And so they proposed really leaning into athleisure and targeting athletes using that type of material because it's more breathable and suitable for the working from home culture. Ultimately, as always, the students walk away with this reference-worthy experience. They're really having a good time. They're learning from communicating with real industry professionals, asking good questions, iterating on deliverables, working as a team with their colleagues. All of that is extremely important as a professional development experience for students. So I wanted to quickly talk about how does all of this come to be? How do you build these experiences? How do you manage these experiences? And how do you ensure excellent outcomes for students? Of course, you can partner with CapSource. We would love to work with you. We ultimately help build high-impact experiential learning programs, and we serve as a facilitator of higher ed industry collaboration. It's a very student-centric model. They're the beneficiary, but ultimately, it's enterprise services and software. So on the left side, we talk a little bit about our primary service, which is matchmaking and program design, which then you can leverage a free version of our technology to really get a sense for how it works, manage your projects and programs, and ensure outcomes. Also leverage our support because if we know what's going on, we can help. And then ultimately, we also package the technology. It's called CapSource Connect, which is an enterprise experiential learning ecosystem, which can really be used to monetize industry partners. That's the big goal, is to help universities trigger value add for companies enough so that they can monetize. Similar to how the OPMs came in and said, hey, we can help you build online programs better. We're here to help you build experiential programs better, and we want you to brand it, and we want you to monetize them because they're so excellent. And it's something that we're really excited to continue doing with really amazing academic partners that have great alumni networks that are interested in engaging those alumni through projects and through collaborations with current students. So I wanted to quickly talk about the actual...
Paul is on now.
Oh, awesome. Paul, if you're with us, we were just talking about the branch experience. I was wondering if you wanted to talk a little bit about your experience working on the live case collaboration with Branch earlier this year.
Sure, thanks, Jordan. Welcome everyone. Paul Sweat. I'm from Massachusetts Maritime Academy and had the privilege of working with CapSource last summer. So just a little bit of the backstory. Traditionally, our students have a 3 to 4 week international experience, and given the pandemic, obviously we couldn't do that. So we had to pivot, and our solution was to create a virtual experience. And for our virtual experience, we decided to go with management consulting. And so in a pretty intensive 4-week course where they met twice a day in live sessions and then also had team meetings, we talked them through the whole consulting process and many aspects of management consulting. The way we structured the course, just to kind of work them through it, is with a live case study. And so we wanted them to apply the skills and ideas they were learning. And so we had kind of 2 phases. We wanted to give them a quick, what we called a boot camp experience to the live case study, and then launch them into their actual live case study with Branch. So in the first week, every day of the first week, we worked them through the different stages of a live consulting experience using one of the CapSource open source cases, and we used the Bitcoin. Help me out. Who's that company again?
CoinSource.
CoinSource. So they went through and did the CoinSource case. And we talked about it in the context of consulting and how they would have consulted with that. At the same time, we kicked off the live engagement with Branch. And Branch is a furniture company, an office furniture company who suffered similar to education through the pandemic. You know, when everybody was, working at home, there was less of a need for office furniture, and so a lot of their contracts and customers started drying up. So they pivoted from a business-to-business model to a direct-to-consumer model. So now they were selling directly to employees rather than companies. And what our students did was they worked with Branch and their operations group, and Branch is not a large organization. It was probably in their second year of startup, third or fourth quarter of revenues, and we're helping them with some of their supply chain strategies and their operations, and specifically their order fulfillment processes. So students got a real look into a real organization. They were doing analysis and making recommendations to the client. And ultimately, it turned out to be a phenomenal experience for them. And I just opened up for myself some of the student feedback. And one of the things that stand out to me is that more than 4 out of 5 of the students stated they were provided an opportunity to experience management consulting, which I think is pretty incredible, given 1, the online environment, and given 2, this was as an alternative to going to, say, Norway or South Africa or Thailand for a few weeks. So they really bought into it. They got a lot out of it. It opened up a lot of their eyes to career opportunities in consulting. And from talking to my colleagues over the last semester and this semester, it's a real touch point for them. Students refer back to this consulting experience time again in other courses, whether that's org management or marketing or operations. So really effective all around, and we were quite pleased with the results.
Thanks, Paul. Do you want to just highlight just a bit about kind of how we go through the process of finding you the right company and helping to scope and launch the project?
Sure. As the instructor, and we had several sections, and each of them did it a little differently. But in my section, I worked with Jordan, and so we worked in a kind of an abbreviated time frame. But in the spring, probably from March to April, I communicated with Jordan and his team. Here are my needs, and really my needs boil down to one: I need a really strong company mentor who's invested in students' education. And the other piece I really needed was a strong scoping statement. So that would kind of be in the request stage. And then Jordan's team took that away. And I think we interviewed 2, 3, or 4. I cannot remember different companies. It was probably 4 now that I think about it. And ultimately, we found Branch to be the best match, which isn't necessarily a match for the mission of our institution. We're a maritime academy, so you would think a transportation organization or even something that's focused more on logistics would be better. But there were more factors in favor for Branch, and Branch became the ultimate choice. And so once we decided that Branch was our match, we then started the engagement process and came up with an engagement agreement that we worked through with CapSource. And then through that engagement agreement, we kind of defined the parameters of the live case, how often they'd meet, what the deliverables would be, and so on and so forth. And then we scheduled a kickoff meeting for the Thursday of the first week of the 4-week class. They had office hours on the second and third week where they checked in with the client and gave them status updates as to where they were at in the process. And then the final week, they essentially made their pitches. And I had 5 teams of 3 students each, all working on the same kind of problem, and each of them came up, and one of the requirements I asked of them was come up with 2 to 3 strong recommendations that you're going to make, and they came up with a whole array. So, the client at Branch, they had a whole menu of options to choose from. Some of the things that the students got excited about were, during those office hours, status update meetings, they would, say, hey, listen, I don't see any COVID language on your website. You probably want to have something that talks about what you're doing and so on. And then Branch would take that information in, and 2 days later they would have something up. So the students were really excited to see their recommendations in action. But, we went through this process, lead up front, working with CapSource. We identify our needs. Then we interviewed a few companies. We made a match. Through that match, we designed the engagement and then launched it in a kickoff in that first week.
I couldn't have said it better myself, Paul. Thank you so much. So just to kind of recap, first part is we try to understand what the educators are looking to accomplish from a teaching perspective, what types of companies you want to collaborate with, and what's your timeline. The second, you interview the companies, make sure that you find that strong mentor that you want to work with at a company with a project that you want to work on. The next part is really designing the experience so that the company gets a lot of value out of it, but so do the students, and it's easier for you as the faculty to manage. The more detail that's put into the program design and the timeline and the project, the easier it is to keep track of and manage. And then, of course, to launch and manage the program, we've developed lots of really incredible tools, a lot of which are actually new from the standpoint of when Paul actually managed his program this past summer. But basically, the ability to onboard co-instructors, onboard students, recruit the companies and manage the projects associated with those companies, ensure that there's a timeline, notifications that go out to the students, surveys that result in data that you can actually use to then intervene with student teams to make sure that they are having good experience and learning and things are as effective as it could be. So these are all the really wonderful tools, technologies, concepts that we've implemented to try and make experiential learning easier to build, track, manage, and scale. So talk about scale. Our partners, our power users, the schools that are really becoming leaders in experiential learning are taking the technology and making it their own, tailoring it to the types of formats and topics that their faculty and students want to work on, creating a private network of companies that are willing to support through projects and also financially by contributing to the experience. So this is just a littering of some of the Connect clients that we have now. It really serves as a completely comprehensive experiential ecosystem with lots of features to really ensure that your faculty and students have what they need to really build, manage, track, scale experiential learning at your institution. Of course, as you build more experiential learning programs, it's easier to attract innovative companies who are interested in your students as talent and therefore are willing to pay to participate. That is the employer pay model. That is how we intend to help schools. It is not something that it should strategically align with most mandates for each school. Like, we want schools to support their local community, produce talent, engage in research. And this is just a really closed loop ecosystem that enables you to do it a little bit more scalably and efficiently. I did want to mention that we have a special offer for schools in the IACBE community of 10% off the top of any service or software that you purchase over the next year. We really value the partnership with IACBE. We've been having a wonderful time putting together incredible live case experiences that are sometimes interscholastic, now more often scholastic challenges like the one Paul talked about and the example at FIT where they worked on True Religion. I did want to stop to see if there's any questions. I know we have a few minutes left. So hopefully if there have been any throughout, Abby, maybe you can chime in. Otherwise, if you do have questions and you'd like to chime in, feel free to activate your mic or chat directly in the box. And I'm sure Paul Zwed from Mass Maritime is open to answering some questions about his personal experience as well.
Hi, Jordan. This is Phyllis. Dr. Lydia Knock from Hope International University had a question. And if you would like to put on your microphone, you can just ask your question, Dr. Knox. We're not hearing you. Okay, if she can get it working. But her question was that if it's used as a short group project, which business course do you recommend we consider placing this project in? So kind of where in the courses do schools usually put these, Jordan?
Good question. So actually, one cool thing on our website is there's a nice guide of the topics that we've worked on previously with our different clients. So I'll just pop that open for you so you can take a quick look. And this will hopefully provide some inspiration. Really, any business area is applicable. So anything from accounting and finance, anything across marketing, analytics, definitely a lot of management with strategy and talent and operations. Supply chain management is certainly another area. Sometimes product development and entrepreneurship is pretty interesting. International affairs, if that's relevant to any courses. Live cases are particularly good for intro level classes. Capstones, which is a format that only involves one team of students working on one project, are particularly good for the later stage courses. We've seen some real success with like intro level classes where students are, pre-major. They're really just trying to get their bearings on the types of disciplines that are out there in the real world. And so that's a really nice way to do it. You can have different projects, one on accounting and finance, another on marketing, another on supply chain, and give students a taste of what that's like before they declare. I think middle level courses where students are starting to get into major specific areas are also really nice to work on, mostly because the students are actually getting a chance to learn some theory and then apply it directly to companies and organizations that have challenges in those fields. And then I think that if they have not gotten an experiential learning opportunity by the time they're a senior, definitely want to go with like a capstone model, which enables each student team to really directly interact with the company directly, as opposed to the live case method really leverages an experiential educator as a facilitator. So the faculty really need to play a key role in communication, in scheduling, because a lot of that stuff is the challenging stuff that comes from the working world. So they may not be ready for all of that yet. So that's where live case reduces the risk and burden on the students a little bit, because the faculty takes over some of that responsibility. Any other questions, folks? We have time for about one more.
Can you please describe how it is used for entrepreneurship?
Yes, so during the requirements gathering phase that we kind of highlighted here, we often work with entrepreneurship programs where students are getting a chance to work directly with later stage founders. I think a lot of entrepreneurship programs focus on helping students become founders themselves. But what they don't realize is how hard it is to grow a business once a business has traction. And so I think that's what my particularly missed opportunity was when I was an entrepreneurship minor at Lehigh. I never got a chance to actually sink my teeth into any real company that was a little bit further along, maybe dealing with a few clients, trying to scale, trying to fundraise. So ultimately, the students get a chance to work on later stage entrepreneurial ventures. During the requirements gathering, you would indicate that you're looking for a startup particularly. That's actually one of the criteria in the request for proposals. Once we understand that that's what you're looking for, you can have each student team work with an individual company, or you could do the live case method where the company asks the entire class or program to work on one or more challenges related to their business growth.
Yeah, Jordan, I think what you did with DoorDash is an example of that. It's an established company, but they were looking for how to open up a new market. So it was a very entrepreneurial thing that they were trying to do. And the students had the opportunity to put together proposals of how DoorDash could enter a new market segment. So while they were more established, it was still a very entrepreneurial project. So I think you've had some out there that have given students a chance to explore entrepreneurship in kind of a safe way within a company where they're making decisions and showing these to the founders of the company, and then that company makes the decision, but the students get the feedback on that entrepreneurial process.
Excellent point, Phyllis. Well,
Jordan, we're about out of time.
Yes.
We're down to 3:59.
Well, I just wanted to thank.
Closing comment?
Yeah, I just wanted to thank you so much.
I was just going to add that the live case study that IACBE did in 2019, Maneva, which is now an open case, that was to U.S. market, and so that was an example. That would be a great entrepreneurship example.
Yeah, definitely.
So actually Paul's mentioned this twice now. The Open Cases is a new product that we're re-releasing this spring for use over the summer and fall, where students get a chance to work on case studies based on old projects. So this is that 2019 case where a company that enables people who are disabled to control wheelchairs with head movements. ultimately try to enter the U.S. market. We had a really great experience hearing from the students. So if you want your students to work on this, you can submit responses and the company will ultimately look those over, but it's a little bit less interactive and tailored to your course. So I did want to mention that we're a growing, we call it EduSystem. It's a big network. We're incredibly proud to be an IACBE partner. We welcome opportunities to collaborate with you too and support your students as they switch from education to work. And I did want to mention that we have office hours left this week if you want to get more of a demo of our software, meet with our team. We have our Director of Academic Partnerships, Tremaine, who's a previous educator turned CapSource leader. And we really just want to say thank you so much for all your time and for contributing and coming to the session today.
Thank you, Jordan. And if you're interested in visiting Jordan or any of the people from CapSource, if you look on your agenda at the top, there is a link and the hours that they are available in their booth. You can jump in there, make another appointment, and answer questions. Thank you, everybody, for joining us for this session. The next session starts at 4:15 in about 15 minutes, and that'll be the last session for today. And then we start up tomorrow at, look at my agenda, at 11 o'clock with a panel on leadership. So thank you, everybody, for attending, and I look forward to seeing you in one of the next sessions and tomorrow. Thank you, Jordan, and thank you, Abby. Bye-bye.
Thanks, everyone. Take care.